What's going on? I'm Jared Welch. He's Aaron Halterman. It is Thursday, May 18th, and this is Blinkers Off. I was cracking up, dude. I was just now looking at it as the thing was playing of the bets that were going on and what time we'd actually go off here. And if I would have looked at it closer, Shotty, I would have helped you out. But I guess 6:08 was the answer.
I told everybody on the Dudes Who Bet Sports show what time it would start. So it's your fault.
And to be clear, Kevin, 6:09 is a bad guess, even though the 69 is a good number for the Racing Dudes team. But it has to be like within 8 minutes of the start time. So 6:08 is like 1 to 5 every week. 6:07 is a good guess as well, Shotty. But we are here. It's Preakness week, and Mage is going to try to win the second leg of the Triple Crown, and no other horses from the Derby are going to enter the race. So new shooters, 7 new shooters in the race. So, initial thoughts, Halterman, of the Preakness.
New shooters. Yeah, listen, it's a race. We're gonna run it. I'm excited.
Okay, it's a great race. We'll talk a lot about the Preakness, obviously. Analysis. I watched some of. I had to turn it. It was getting a little too tense for me. I had to turn off the Dudes Who Bet. You and your dad kind of were going after it a little bit with you were yelling at him at one point, I think. You're very intense.
He doesn't listen. He just gets ready for what he's going to say next, and he doesn't listen.
I felt like there was some undertone vibes going on there.
I said, okay, Chad Brown has won this race twice by doing this, skipping a horse with the Derby and running in the Preakness, and then I kick it to him, and he goes, well, if this horse wasn't in the Preakness, or wasn't in the Derby, it means he wasn't any good. And I'm just like, you don't listen. So I had to yell at him.
Yeah, I mean, you said it. You're like, I'll say it again. I'll say it one more time.
Well,
I'll say it goes in the back.
And I said it again. And he said the same thing. I said, okay, I'm going to say this very slowly so you can hear it. This is what he does. And finally, that got through to him.
Yeah, I mean, Kevin says, isn't that all parents, though? I mean, yeah. It's funny how that works when you're young. Like, when they're younger, like my kids, they don't listen to me.
Correct.
Now, when they get older, they flip. They don't. Nope. Yeah, it completely does a role reversal. And really in all senses, you know what I mean? Like, not just that, just in general. You start taking care of your parents or being more worried about what they're doing and like kind of like looking out for them whenever it flips, obviously, whenever they're younger. So we're at the stage now. You and I have talked about this. We're at the stage now where we're having to keep track of the parents.
Yep, that's right. That's where we're at. Yeah, no, it was just funny that he said it the first time, and it's like, okay, hold on, you didn't hear me. This is what I said, and you say it again, and then he does the same thing, and I'm like, I don't know where I'm going with this now. I'm going to have to get stern with you at this point, sir. So
it worked. I was cracking up, man. I was like, damn, son. I'm fired up for Blinkers Off now. Hopefully I get a little bit nicer version of that Halterman. He never yells at me.
I mean, I wasn't going to yell at first, but I feel like I had to after he didn't listen to me.
Well, if we learn anything from Papa Dude on the Derby live stream, he's old. He's getting old. He doesn't listen well. He has to take breaks, and he may not be getting through to him all the way. So
that's all of the above. Yeah,
he's had dinner already. He's probably getting ready for bed at this point. So
that's right. Yes. Yes. No, he's definitely done for the night.
Yeah. He's not. You mean he's not watching Blinkers Off? No.
No. He's probably getting ready for the hockey game, honestly, right now, and he'll probably doze off about the second period.
Well, tune in tomorrow at 11 o'clock Central to talk. Listen to what the Haltermans will be bitching about tomorrow, and what Halterman needs to do to get onto his dad. It's quality entertainment. Oh, we'll be live tomorrow as well. For Black Eyed Susan Day, and then of course we'll be live on Saturday for the Preakness. Do you have? I don't have it. Do you have it off top hand? What time we're going live tomorrow?
Tomorrow Central Time, 4 to 5.
Okay, 4 to 5.
And then Saturday, I want to say it's like
3 Central.
3 to 6, right?
Yeah, 1 to 4:15 Pacific. So yeah,
Okay. Yeah,
3 to
3
6:15 Central Time, and that's going to cover the McKay Turf, the sprint, the Turf Mile, and of course the Preakness. So, you guys were there with us last week or 2 weeks ago for the Derby. It was a blast. We weren't cashing tickets, but we were having fun. Hopefully, we can do a little bit more cashing, and we'll still have fun. So make sure you guys tune in to both those live shows on Friday and Saturday. Speaking of bets, make sure you go to racingdudes.com. The Preakness betting Bible is now available. We just finished that, released it earlier this afternoon. Halterman and I, our bets, we're looking for redemption. The redemption tour starts on Saturday as we have all our bets placed and lined up and in the betting Bible. So go get your hands on that right now. Includes not just our picks, but the entire team's picks for every race on the card on Preakness Saturday. Pick 3, pick 4, pick 5 analysis, all that stuff. Everything you need to help you cash in. So make sure you go get that at racingdudes.com. Again, I mean, if you're looking like law of averages, we gotta bounce back. This is the bounce back week. I feel good about it. It's just like when a team gets blown out in the first game and you know they're better than that. You say, well, I'm playing them back the next game. They're gonna be better.
I hope you're right.
Halterman's so confident, guys. I love it. Hey, you know what? That's the way you line them up, man. The hard work's done. And now they just have to run.
That's true. Yeah, the hard work is done. You're right about that. All that's left is to watch them. So
it's funny how good their bets look at this juncture. You know what I mean? I look at the bets I put in. I'm like, I love my bets. I love it. Like there's a chance I can make thousands and thousands of dollars if these bets come in, but we don't know. You know, we gotta wait and see. So
I really didn't have a lot of confidence in the Derby, but the rest of the bets that weekend, I felt fairly good about, as good as you could feel about a bet. You know, that's kind of what sucked. Like the Derby, I knew I didn't have a great opinion, or I not say great, but a strong opinion, and it's just like, yeah, we're gonna need some luck here. But the rest of those, shit, I felt just as good as any other time. That's what's frustrating.
Well, man, get some shots here, Curtis. Here, I'll play that one first. Not surprised. The guy who loved to have a trice didn't cash bets on Derby week. Well, I mean, it wasn't just that race, unfortunately. I guess I should have known. But honestly, if you haven't, watch our trip notes and my trip notes about the race. It wasn't necessarily, and I don't want to talk too much about. I'm trying to forget about the Derby, but it wasn't as much as I think I picked the wrong horse. I mean, obviously I did, but it's just I was totally wrong about the trip. I thought he'd get, and if you just told me hey, he'll be in last when they hit the backside, and maybe Curtis, you knew or you expected that to happen, and I know Somich was that way too, where and he was right and we were wrong. I never believed that he was going to be in last place, in that juncture, and you're not going to. I knew especially him was not going to win with that trip, and so it's just I feel like I feel more wrong about the analysis of how it would play out versus picking just a shitty horse, or not one that ran. He ran. You can't win from there.
Yeah.
Unless you're Mage, I guess, which ran huge. We'll get to him in a second. Let's do it. Let's talk about today's show, which will preview and give picks for Saturday's $1.5 million Preakness Stakes at Pimlico and discuss the chances. Looking forward to this. The chances of Mage winning the Triple Crown and what the Triple Crown actually means now. What does it mean, Halterman? Don't tell us. I can't wait to get to that. Let's go. Yeah, Kevin, not Kevin. Sorry, Kevin. Curtis, that was mean, man. Come on. What are you doing?
So that really just happened at Belmont. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So
there you go.
Oh man.
You should never single gun it. I'm sorry, but
I actually I realized why you did it. That's what's sick. But still, you knew this was probably going to be the result. So Gunnet's up against Following C. and who hasn't raced in a while, he comes back awful. So it's like, all right, I'm taking a shot against it. Gunnan is like a lot better than the rest of the horses. He turns for home the lead, and then he does the same thing he always does. And a 10-1 shot wins.
He'll never change.
He's the epitome of he just can't get it done. He can't get out of his own way.
I mean, maybe, and there's a long list behind him or in front of him, but maybe one of the worst of all time as far as horses that should have been good that weren't.
Yep.
I mean, he had the makings to be a really good horse, and everything. All signs seemed that way, right? I think, and not just us. I mean, I think the connections thought that too. God, he's just a total idiot.
He's just not good. Yep. And like I said, that's one where following C, if you're gonna take a shot against him, that's one right there where it's like, yeah, he can win this, and he got beat by 10-1 shot. Yeah, he's just a bad boy.
Whatever you say. All right, what do you guys say? Let's talk about one of the big races this weekend. I think, right? Unless you want to, what do you want to do in depth? The Preakness or the McKay? Everyone's doing the Preakness. Let's switch it up.
Do the McKay? Okay.
You're prepared. Who do you guys like in race 4 at Churchill Downs?
Race 4 at beautiful and historic Churchill Downs today.
You said it.
Churchill Downs, race 4. Oh, that's a toughie. I like the 4 and I like the 10 and the 12. 4, 10, 12.
There you go. There's a trifecta given out to you for free.
That's right. I'm sure.
Buddy.
4, 10, 12. Yeah. We got 7 minutes. Let's see. The 4. Yeah, I mean, decent prices, really.
Ugh, don't do that. There we go. All right, let's do it. Saturday at Pimlico, race 13. The Grade 1 Preakness Stakes, $1.5 million for 3-year-olds going a mile and 3/16. Of course, it is the second leg of the 2023 Triple Crown. And the only horse that, I mean, every year that's got a chance is the horse that won the Derby. And we only have one horse from the Kentucky Derby, and that's number 3, Mage, your Derby winner, your 8-5 morning line favorite for the Preakness. You've got the new shoot. Well, they're all new shooters, but the main new shooter, number 8, First Mission for Brad Cox, of course, winning the Lexington last out over Arabian Lion, I should say, at 5-2, 4-1 on another Baffert horse at National Treasure, back with Baffert. And 6-1 on Blazing Sevens. You got Red Route 1 in there at 10-1 Performance. A lot of, other than maybe Chase the Chaos, Coffee with Chris, horses that I feel like are outmatched here entirely. A lot of just horses we've seen in the past, horses that weren't good enough to do the Derby, horses that were waiting for this race, whatever the case may be. Bottom line is Mage is your favorite, and it really seems like he should have things. If he can win the Derby like he did, I don't know how he loses here if he runs that kind of race again.
Yeah, I mean, that's just it. I mean, this is a pretty easy one as far as the decision you got to make. You just got to say, okay, I'm going against Mage. I don't think he's gonna run back to that race. I think he's gonna bounce, and then you handicap the race from there. And if you believe he is going to come back and run that type of race, it becomes very hard to go against him. And that's where I'm at with it as well. Listen, there are reasons he won't come back. There are reasons he will come back and run that race again. I think it's a 50-50 shot. I think he's going to be even money. So I think it makes sense to bet Mage. And so I put Mage on top. I get it if you don't want to play him. I think he's more likely to bounce in a race like the Belmont. I think just wheeling back in 2 weeks here, he's fairly fresh. I don't think he'll have much of a problem in this race. And like I said, if he fires, I don't see anybody that can rise up enough to beat him.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big key for me was, and let me very clear. I mean, if you've been a follower or listener of this show for a while, like, First Mission, like I'm leader of the fan club there, and I went into this race, really up until 2 weeks ago. This time, I was definitely, I was like, unless something crazy happens in the Derby, I'm picking First Mission to win the Preakness. I just knew I was going to do that, and I went into the race thinking the same thing, and then kind of going into looking at it, and after what Mage did, and obviously kind of, I don't know, a couple different factors. I just kept going back to the fact that I think First Mission is going to have to run huge in order to win. Whereas if Mage wasn't in the race, or say someone else won, I would have felt better about First Mission. But the bottom line is Mage did something that not a lot of people thought he could do, winning the Derby, not running as a 2-year-old. He was only running in his third career race in the Kentucky Derby. I mean, I'm sorry, his fourth career race in the Kentucky Derby. That's a horse that's like, we don't even know what he is yet. So the fact that he shows up here, I'm not too worried either. Like the layoff, the quick turnaround. I don't know about you, but like it wasn't like I know he ran huge, but it didn't feel like he like was all out. I think he kind of cruised home in the Derby.
That's that. As weird as it sounds, that's kind of what I think too. You watch that race back, it's not like they were riding him like crazy and hitting him left-handed or right-handed and trying to do all this stuff. He just kind of did it on his own. And you go back and you watch the Florida Derby, there's not a lot of that either. He just kind of makes that move, and I don't know. I think he's got a better chance to show up with an effort in between those two races than anything else. I think that's like the most likely scenario. And again, if he does, it's just like you go back, you watch the replays of all the horses. God, he just looks a little bit better than the rest of these. You look at National Treasure, it's like, yeah, he's okay, but I don't think he's great. But he could move forward, but is it going to be enough? I'm not sure. First Mission, kind of the same thing. I think he's good, but I think he's going to have to move forward just a bit too much to beat Mage. Again, yeah, you watch him, and my dad, as much as we ripped on him earlier, he made a really good point to me. He's like, you don't really see horses do what he did in the Florida Derby, and it's like he lost the race, and I think people kind of discounted him. He's like, he went from last to first in like 2 seconds, and if Forte doesn't like dig down and beat him, what would we be saying about that race? Even he's like, he's like really good, and Forte might just be a really, really good elite type that was able to beat him that day. But I think he's getting better. I think there's a shot he could get up there and run that type of race again. And again, if he does, I don't see him losing.
Well, the interesting part about this race is this is one of the shortest fields he's faced, really, for Mage, maybe since his debut. So I don't know that the trip itself, a horse that has been clearly not been able to break very well. But it's a race that you typically see the best horses run well in this race. It's the more what would you say? Like the more like true race of the three legs. The Belmont, you have horses that are just bred to go that long, and sometimes they're better than they really are in that race. The Derby, a million things can happen. We know that. In this race, it's the most natural race of the three, and so you kind of have to go into that and say, who do I think is the best natural horse of this race? Who is the most talented horse of the race? And based off of what we've seen, I think you got to go with Mage. Like I think you have a year or two that is weak, and obviously not having. We'll talk about this in a second. Not having any horses from the Derby into the race, it's like his path is. I mean, the path isn't that hard at this point to get to the Belmont with Triple Crown on the line.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that the main logical contender here is the 8 First Mission, who has ran huge, and we know they love this horse. But how much did you think about the fact that he was all out to beat Arabian Lion last out, which we'll see Arabian Lion on the undercard. So maybe if he blazes, we'll be like, oh, that we feel better about that. But how concerned are you that the fact that he was all out to beat Arabian Lion, and you would think logically that Baffert would enter Arabian Lion in this race if he thought he was that good.
Yeah, I think that is a little bit of a problem. I don't know that he was like all out to beat him, but he definitely gave him a scare for sure. And I think Irad made it a little closer when he kind of crowded him, but
That's
the
true.
point is still
Yeah.
there. The point
Yeah.
is still very valid. It's concerning, honestly, especially when you look at the field and it's like he sent National Treasure into this race, which tells you, like, it tells me anyway, he probably doesn't think Arabian Lion is as good as National Treasure, and that's worrisome, right?
Yeah.
So it's a problem. I'm not overly concerned about it because I do think this first mission horse is one that's getting better, and I think distance will get better. So I think there's some positives to it as well, but it is a little concerning. There's no doubt, and because it's an 8-horse field, you could easily put a 9th one in there, and Arabian Lion would make sense on paper.
So, what do you if you're a firm believer of first mission in here, and I'll be honest, if he wins, I kind of have everything going through Mage on the front end, and if he wins, it's gonna sting a little bit. But the bottom line is, if you are picking first mission here and you believe that he can win this race, which by the way, Brad Cox has never won the Preakness. Do you think, like, what is it? Is it more of Mage is gonna degrade, like he's gonna get worse, like he's not gonna bounce back, or do you actually think that first mission is that horse? You know what I mean?
Oh man, what a question. It's the real big question of it. I don't think first mission can get to that level. I think if Mage runs the Florida Derby type of race, first mission can. I think if it's somewhere in between, first missions could improve. I think it's more likely if first mission wins, Mage didn't run quite as good as what we thought he would. To the long way around it, that's the simple answer.
Yeah, from what I've kind of gathered and what I've just putting two and two together with a few, it's like, yeah, basically, I'll subtext, like it's not the direct quote, but basically, it's like, yeah, we really like him, but Mage is a concern, and and I think that logic is what you're saying. It's like, yeah, we really like him, but if Mage does that again, it's he's gonna have to run a race that we didn't think he could run, kind of thing.
Yeah.
If your first mission, or and frankly, if it's anybody, if anyone else in this race, you like, maybe it's National Treasure, and I think that's a good example too. National Treasure, he makes sense a lot of ways on paper, right? That you really want to pick him, and then you watch his replays, and you're like, oh, I don't know that I can pick him to win. Like, it all logically makes sense. He's back with Baffert. He's been working great. He's got blinkers on. He draws the one. He's shown speed in the past. But you watch the replays and you're like, I don't know if I can get there with him.
Yeah. I mean, that's just what it is. It's kind of like on paper, they look similar, these horses are the top 2 or 3, and then you watch and it's like, oh boy, he's not quite there yet, But again, I do feel like Mage really ran his best race in the Kentucky Derby, and the best race could be forward for a horse like National Treasure and a horse like First Mission, right? Like, it makes sense that they're going to pop a bigger race than what they've started or what they've ran so far. First Mission, very lightly raced, right? National Treasure back with Baffert, working well. They make sense that they're going to run bigger than what we've seen. It's how big can it be? How much of improvement is there? And what will Mage do? That's really the key. These other ones, I get, like, you want to play them underneath or something, try to get some value, but it seems like the improvement level is too steep. Where First Mission and National Treasure, maybe not.
I do think Curtis, and I think for a lot of people, like, he says, here's the difference. Mage was prepped for the Derby. Everything was planned for the Derby. Now it's like you're hoping that there's something left. And I mean, that's a lot of times a worry. But I think the transition from, and it sounds weird, but I think the transition from Derby to Preakness is a lot easier than the Preakness to the Belmont, because now you're talking about 3 races in 5 weeks, now going a mile and a half. And that's going to be an issue for Mage if he gets there. to me, it's like, you more just keep him at the level he was at prior to the Derby. And I don't look at that race as a race that took a lot out of him. Maybe I'm wrong, but it just feels like a horse that when I've seen him on the track in the mornings here at Pimlico, he looks fresh. So it's like, no, I don't know. Past that, I just have to stick with my gut and say he is the best horse in the race, and best horses typically win or run really well in the Preakness. Kevin says early voting beat Epicenter last year. Feels like Mage may get beat, then be big later in year. Yeah, I mean it. It's an interesting thought, of course. Like I do think if you're gonna get beat, it's like by a fresh horse, right? And they're all somewhat fresh here. It definitely feels like if it's gonna be one of them, it's gonna be First Mission or National Treasure. Would you agree?
Yeah, it does. I agree with that. I kind of went back and looked at similar horses, how they come into the Preakness, after they kind of run a huge Derby, not just like, hey, it's a normal Derby win, but like they run huge. And I categorize Mage as that. He made a big step forward. What do they do in the Preakness? Most of the time, they'll pair that up with a solid Preakness effort. It's the Belmont that usually gets them.
Yeah.
And so I am kind of looking towards the Belmont, trying to beat him. I'm not sure this is the spot. And we've talked about it a lot. If this is the spot, boy, the price isn't going to be good if you're playing First Mission or National Treasure. You'd like to have a little bit better price. I don't know. Maybe National Treasure floats up, but First Mission feels like a 2-to-1 type.
Oh, by the way, Curtis, cannot wait till there's a Triple Crown on the line, and my boy Tappet Trice wins and upsets the Triple Crown. I cannot wait for that. You make sure you're in the chat. But listen, let's go through the field here. And you're right. Like I think for like First Mission, you would need I'm just like look at what he's done. Like you would need a horse that's making this huge jump. It's not. I mean, I'd say it's a huge jump into this race. Like you would need every bit like 4 or 5 to 1 on him, and you're just not going to get it. I think it's going to be like a thing where it's like 3-2, 6-5, even money, maybe even on Mage, and First Mission's like 9-5, something like that. I think both these horses are going to be bet so hard. National Treasure, yeah, I think you're going to get about that 4 to 5 to 1, based off all the money going on those two. That's why the exacta is so tough to play in this race, because even if you get First Mission at home over Mage, it's still not going to pay a ton. You got to almost take a stand against one or the other. But yeah, it's right. You're like and that's a factor. If First Mission was 5 to 1, I tell you're going to get 5. Like I know some people that bet. I believe they got 6 to 1 on him in that the Preakness future thing they did or whatever. And that's fine. Like if you got 6 to 1 on him, then you don't even have to bet the race. Like great. Those are perfect odds for him in this race.
You said it. And I think that's kind of the key. It's because the field is so iffy, you do have to kind of, if you're going to say, hey, I'm against Mage, you do kind of have to stomach a little bit lower prices than probably what you would want to stomach, right?
Yeah.
Even like an early voting last year paid more than like a First Mission and maybe a National Treasure. Again, I'm not sure what he's going to do odds wise, but early voting was like 7-2 last year, right? I don't know that you're going to get 7-2 to beat Mage on First Mission or National Treasure. I'm not sure.
All right, so let's run through the field here a little bit, and you tell me. I'll run through them all, and then you kind of tell me thoughts a little bit. But more importantly, I want to know where you think these horses are going to be early. First quarter, first half of the race. All right. So National Treasure, number 1, Bob Baffert, feels like a horse that's going to be the pace setter of the race. What do you think? And is he going to have it on his own, or is he going to have some pressure with him?
Yeah, he'll be on the lead. I think Coffee with Chris also will be kind of up there, but I think National Treasure beats him to the spot because he draws the rail, and I think he's a little bit better quality horse, so he should be on the lead.
I agree, and there's just based off look who's on the horse: John Velasquez, Bob Baffert. This is the way they've been working them. You're adding blinkers; the signs are there. And if you're a buyer guy, which I like to look at all the numbers, but if you look at the buyers, like if he runs anywhere in the ballpark of even where he's been running, and I'm just again, if you are a buyer guy, if he runs the kind of races he's been running, and you don't even expect an improvement off National Treasure, if Mage runs the Florida Derby race, it will get tight. That's if you're just off of those numbers. If you expect an improvement, Mage is going to have to run close to the Derby type of run if he's going to, if you feel that confident with him. If you're just specifically looking, and Curtis, if you're a Rags guy, National Treasure is the closest to Mage here. So I agree, and I'm not. I don't have the stones to play National Treasure on top, but I did make sure to key him in one of my tries in second because he just have a feeling like maybe he's making his run right, and someone's gonna have to come get him, and I'm banking on it being Mage. But I could see National Treasure making an effort here to make this thing make Mage work for it. Let's just put it that way. All right, number 2. Do you have a comment?
If National Treasure wins, I'll never watch a replay again.
Yeah, well, dude, that's a good point because he does not look like anything that could win the Preakness if you watch his replays at all.
And I said it on the preview that I did. I'll say it here. If he wins, if you just look at that paper, whether it's Timeform or DRF or whatever you guys want to look at, he looks like he can beat him. Like everything points to, hey, this is the horse you want. And so I even said, I get it. If you guys want to play National Treasure and you're looking at this form, I don't really have an argument. He looks good to me. When you watch this horse, it's not there. So if he wins, I don't think replays are important. I will say that live and on the air because I just, unless he runs a race that you haven't seen yet, right? But we're talking about these buyers and these Timeform numbers from races that have already happened, make him competitive. You look at those races, he don't look very good. But anyway, go on.
No, I agree. Chase the Chaos, the 2 horse, 50-1 seems like happy to be in the race. Move on.
Yeah, I don't think he'll play much of a factor in any way. He's not really a horse that should play a part of the pace. I think he just kind of sits mid-pack and tries to hope to make a little bit of a run.
Well, that's what's also interesting. Other than the 4 Coffee with Chris, there's no other like quote unquote cheap speed, anything that could hamper any of these horses. The horses that are new here are going to be coming from the back, and it should not have an impact of the race whatsoever. Number 3, Mage. Obviously, we know our feelings a little bit on him, but in a race that we've seen, well, let's go 2 back even. He was in he was close to Tabatrice in the Kentucky Derby. He was last in the Florida Derby. He hasn't broke well, but now again, he gets a softer field. He gets a smaller field. Where do you expect him to be in this race?
Mid-pack. We know he has the ability to get up there a little closer, and he just hasn't done it. But I think mid-pack probably makes the most sense. I don't think he's last, but I didn't think he'd be last in the Florida Derby, and he was. So
yeah,
I think if you're backing Mage and you are like, oh God, he's going to get way behind again. He can't have a harder trip than he did in the Derby here in this 8-horse field, right? And like you just said, if he does drop back, well, hell, there's only going to be 2 or 3 ahead of him anyway, because there's only a couple that really can run early. And you got to think he'll be ahead of Red Route 1, right? So he's not going to be last.
No one's going to be behind Red Route 1.
I mean, to me, he's naturally, even if he breaks horribly, he's naturally faster than like a Red Route 1. I would say naturally faster than a Blazing Sevens. Chase the Chaos isn't very fast, performs not. I mean, even if things go poorly, he should still be like 5th or 6th, right?
Well, what's so nice about Mage, and another reason why I kind of I could never have picked him in the Derby like Somich did, but like the one thing you had going for him if you did pick him is even if he didn't break, even if he whatever, like he's going to give you a run, and that's the horse that you feel confident in. Like he's going to show up wherever he sits, so you don't have to feel too worried in this position of where he's at in the race because he will make a run. Okay, number 4, Coffee with Chris. If you are if you're against the 1 and maybe at least the win, Are you hoping that Coffee with Chris is fast enough to put some sort of pressure on the one?
I guess, but I just don't see it becoming a factor. I feel like if he flies, he'll kind of just be the horse that they just let him go, forget about it. I don't think they'll speed up. I'm kind of on the fence on whether against this type of field he'll actually go out there and do it. I think he might look around and go, no. I'm not real worried about him being a factor.
Talk about non-factors early in the race, anyways. Number 5, Red Route 1. Listen, if there's Mage and maybe the other one, if there's any other horse in this field where it's like, listen, I know what he's going to do. I know he's going to show up. I know how he's going to run the race. That's number 5, Red Route 1. We've seen it time and time again.
Yeah.
No matter what they've tried, he goes straight to the back, looks dead, and then makes this huge run late. And sometimes it's good enough. Last time it was good enough to win. Rosario's back aboard. This is the only Asmussen horse in the race. It seems like a reach that he could win, but putting him underneath seems very logical here.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think, how close do you want to get to it? Do you want to try to get him up for second? Do you want to try to get aggressive and hope he can really pass him? But look, we know what he is. I saw somebody mention, yeah, there it is. You hit it right on the head. He's ran the same race 4 times in a row.
It checks out for sure.
It does. He's going to drop back. He's going to pass the horses that get tired. How many horses do you think are going to get tired? That's where you place him.
Well, you made a really good point, and I'll give you credit every once in a while for your points you make with your dad on when you between sessions of yelling at him, was when you said like it's a good idea because a lot of people are going to be playing their tries with Red Route 1 in the 3rd spot because he is a very logical 3rd place horse, whether it be some fashion Mage, National Treasure, First Mission in your top 2. Red Route 1 seems like a very logical horse to put in 3rd, which is going to hurt your try payouts if you do get, if you get the 3-8, 5 trifecta, it's going to hurt it. So do you, like you said, do you get aggressive and play a little bit with him in the 2nd spot too? Or do you say, well, I'm not even going to play him in 3rd. Instead, I'll play with like the other version of Red Route 1, which might be Perform in this race?
Yeah, that's the big thing. I think I kind of laid out a kind of a path, I guess would be the right word, of how I kind of thought Red Route 1 could get 2nd. And that was if National Treasure and First Mission kind of get involved early. I think First Mission's got enough speed to kind of be up there with them. They kind of bang heads a little bit early. Mage passes them. And then we see that sometimes they get a little discouraged and then Red Route 1 just kind of picks them off, right? Like that, you could see a path where that's very possible. I think more logically he's going to get 3rd, but again, I wouldn't mind you getting aggressive in this spot and trying to get him up there into that 2nd spot and just hoping for a break. And you kind of mentioned it to me earlier in the week. It's kind of a trend when the favorite wins this race, there is a little bit of a price in 2nd. So maybe that happens.
It is I was noticing that when I was kind of going back and, I think it's good for anyone that anytime you handicap ever, but especially these big races, to go back at different years and look at these, not just these races, but the undercards, and get an idea of what, because you're getting an idea of how much money in the pools and stuff, and kind of what the payouts were for if this or, these odds. Now, it's not a perfect science, but it gives you kind of a ballpark figure. And yeah, like the more it was like the Preakness, it felt like every year in recent years was the favorite one, and like, Cherry Wine finished 2nd, right? Or 2 is the favorite runs really well, but gets beat. And it's like a mild horse that finishes 1st. And then this year, it feels like it'd either be First Mission or National Treasure with Mage in 2nd. It feels like it's one of those 2.
Yeah, it does. It does.
Just no matter what you do, go look at a Preakness. Where you see logical horses, they never both run great. It always feels like there's one weird horse that jumps in there.
It is. It always is like that for sure. And I can't really explain why that would be, but it does kind of seem that way. So again, that makes a Red Route 1 or Perform a little bit more attractive to me. I prefer those two horses over a Blazing Sevens, who might be a little bit too short of a price.
Yeah, we'll get to him in a second, but Perform, I mean, this is a horse that honestly I've been all over the place with him. This is a horse that just that's just as recent as two races ago was a maiden. He was a maiden special weight and he won, and then he went straight to the Tessio and looked like he had no business winning that race. That if you just even if you don't want to pick him, go watch that race, the replay of the Tessio. Like that was insane. Like
Mm-hmm.
the move he made and weaving around. I'm concerned about playing him because I do think that visually looks so good that I mean I'm with you. I looked at it and I was like, oh my gosh, like I want to play this horse. Like that horse, I'm not sure. Did he? How much? What did he beat? Who was in it? You got to remember the race. But a horse that should be coming late, and maybe he has started to figure out a little bit of it as well.
Yeah, he's getting better. It's a huge next step, though. That's where the problem is, right? But he is getting better. But this next step is a big one for him.
Yeah, Blazing Sevens, another horse. This is the horse for me. I think we all have horses in every race that's like, listen, if this horse beats me, I'm really pretty sick about it because Blazing Sevens is one I've pretty much taken a strong stance against from the moment the card came out or knew that they were even going to run in the race. He might screw up my try. I think that's my concern. He might be the horse that finishes third. I didn't use him at all. Finished third in the Bluegrass last out. You know, I get it's like this is Chad Brown path. He skips the Derby, goes for the Preakness. We've seen it before, but this horse isn't as good as the horses that were doing that. Plus, he's a horse that It's like he's like the poor man's version of Perform. It's like it's hard for me to get there with him.
I don't think he's very good. I think he's more of a one-turn horse. Those other horses that Chad did it with, they had speed. They were coming out of races during the year where they looked really good. This one's just he hasn't shown much. He did improve a lot second out this year. Maybe he gets one more little bit of improvement. He's not for me. I can't take a shot with him.
All right, and finally, riding off the field, number 8, First Mission. We've talked a little bit about him. Where do you think, you kind of mentioned it earlier, and I agree. This is a horse that has shown quite a bit of speed, especially going two turns, going longer. Last out, he wasn't on the lead. Obviously, Arabian Lions dictated things, but he was close. You got to assume this is the horse that's going to make sure National Treasure kind of is honest on the front end, and that's why I think it sets up nicely for Mage. I could just see a scenario where we saw it firsthand in Lexington. You watched it. Like they started to turn for home for a half a second. You thought First Mission was in trouble. Like he wasn't going to fire, and Sias really got after him, got him going, and he obviously got going. The further they went. But you got to think that he's going to engage him quicker in this race and get to National Treasure, assuming he'll be on the lead. Those two might be battling out where here comes Mage kind of by both of them late in the race. Do you see that playing out like that?
Yeah, that's kind of the thing I've got in my head a little bit. I think First Mission can stalk and start to take over at the top of the stretch. We'll see if National Treasure then starts to fight back. But I think while both of them are kind of starting to do their thing, I think that's the problem. Mage is just going to wind up and really be very, very tough to hold off. And I think that's kind of the scenario I definitely see. I don't know if First Mission will press, but I do think he'll be within range and then just try to make that move. And I think at that moment, I think First Mission will take the lead. And then it's just a matter of will Mage come and get him.
And honestly, it might. If National Treasure, it might bode the best scenario. If you're like Mage or you want Mage to win or whatever, if National Treasure does make a big effort here, because if he just packs up ship and he's gone in the first, when they hit the stretch, First Mission's not gonna have to battle him at all. He just kind of cruised by him. But if there is some sort of battle between those two when they kind of get next to each other, then maybe it kind of softens them up a little bit for Mage to kind of make that move. We saw that a little bit in the Derby with Two Phils, where he kind of did a lot of the dirty work in that race, came up, battled, got in the lead, and then here comes Mage right by all of them. You could see a scenario like that where it would be nice to see National Treasure kind of make a big effort here, soften up First Mission, soften up himself even a little bit, so Mage can kind of pick off both of them down, late in the race.
Yep. I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense. I wouldn't think people would hate it at all if they were in a battle and they're supporting Mage. The one thing you worry about with him is if somebody gets lonely out there, and I think there will be honest enough that they won't. But you got a very aggressive rider in Luis Saez. I don't think he's going to let National Treasure get too far away from him. And also, he's drawn the outside, so he can kind of. I mean, the 7's not going to break that well. The 6, the 5, he can kind of unfold or see it unfold in front of him pretty darn easily. I mean, when you look at this, the 1, the 4, and the 8 they're almost locks to be out there close. And then it's just a matter of, where they fall and where the jockeys kind of want them to go.
Right. All right. So before we move on, give me your final pick, kind of final race scenario here. And then we'll go on to a few other topics here related to the race.
It's Mage for me. I just feel like if he shows up with that race, he's going to win. And I don't see a lot of evidence to say that he won't. And so I'm going to go with Mage. I think he'll run well. End of the day, I know the numbers are similar with National Treasure. I just think still he needs to step up a little bit. And with First Mission, if he wins, I'll be a little upset because I do believe in him. I just don't believe in him enough. So I'm going to take Mage, and I think he gets it done.
I think the one thing that, at least for me, that I can go back to is as much as I love, and I am a win better, not as big as a win better as you are. I just never can play First Mission here at the price I expect him to be at, and that's, to me, even if he does win, I'll be more upset that I didn't put him on top of some of my tries, but I won't be upset that I didn't back him to win, just because it's like, I just can't get behind him at 9-5, in the Preakness. It's just nuts for me, especially with, and it's not like it's a scenario that we've seen before. I mean, like I said, Brad Cox, for whatever reason, he's typically, because he's going, he's pointing to the Derby with a lot of his horses. You don't see as good ones show up here. We'll talk about that in a second. I want to hear a little bit more about that, but I'm with you. I got to go Mage. I think he is just better than the rest, and I still think you can kind of compile what he did in the Derby. I think you can move that here to this race. I don't expect him to regress just because he ran 2 weeks ago. I think we're making a little bit too big of a deal of that. Now, in 3 weeks, yes, we can talk about that. I think that might be a bigger issue in the Belmont Stakes. But yeah, for me, it's Mage. I do think it's I don't know. Like, I don't know if I'm underthinking it, but it just feels like a very logical race in terms of how it should play out. I get that it's horse racing, but just feels like this one is going to set up the way it should, and that would be number 3, Mage, winning the second leg and heading on to the Belmont for a Triple Crown on the line. Before we talk about the Triple Crown, because I want to talk about that, let's first hear from our sponsors at OG Handicappers.
What's up, guys? Jared Welch. What's up, guys? Jared Welch, RacingDudes.com. Have you ever cashed a huge bet and thought, man, I wish I had a t-shirt to commemorate this victory? Now you do. That's right. Maybe you cashed in on a mutter.
His father was a mutter. His father was a mutter. His mother was a mutter. His mother was a mutter. What did I just say?
Look at that. A mutter. You got that. This is the apparel you've been waiting for. It's finally here. OG Handicappers. That's OGHandicappers.com. This is the face of horse racing apparel. It's not only horse racing. They've got golf. They've got lifestyle, casinos, cigars, betting. You name it. It features all your favorite. Look at that. So you cashed in on the front runner. Horse that went gate to wire. You know what? I need a t-shirt for this. Boom. You've got it. OG Handicappers. OG Handicappers has a vibe for everyone, and they even now have a ladies apparel. I'm thinking about getting some ladies apparel for the Tinder girls. Just bring them over. Here's a shirt for you. All right. OGHandicappers.com. Look at this. You get the exact. Maybe you cash in on a huge exacta. You know what? I need one. Or maybe you're the favorite of the family. Grade 1 bread. That's it. That's what you need. Follow them on IG, Facebook, and Twitter. Go to their store at oghandicappers.com. Get yours today. Use promo code DUDES, DUDES, at checkout for a 10% discount. That's oghandicappers.com. Go get it.
There you go. Go get you a shirt, Halterman. All right. So now that let's piggyback from that conversation and go to the next topic that it's a hot topic for you and a lot of people is one, if he wins, obviously we have a triple crown on the line heading to Belmont. How likely do you think that is? Obviously you're picking to win, so you think it's likely he'll run for a triple crown. How likely do you think it is that we'll see another triple crown this year with him? And two, the bigger picture here has to be the triple crown conversation. What is the triple crown now? We have one horse from the Kentucky Derby that's in the race in the Preakness. It's, and I'll be honest, I've been a huge proponent of keep it the same. You and I have had arguments about keeping it the same. And I'm at the point now where it's just like, dude, I don't know what, why something's got to change. Like these trainers we're not breeding them. We're not running them to run in this series anymore. So why have it? That's kind of where I'm at now with it.
Yeah, it's tough, right? Because I was last year saying I think they're going to have to change it. Like this is getting bad, but I look at the training habits of the quote unquote new age trainers, and I don't think changing it's really going to help. I don't think you can space it out long enough anymore. So I don't really know what the answer is. I think you could try to entice them monetarily and hope that works. But again, the bottom line is, and I'm not trying to be a jerk. I'm not trying to say that it sucks or anything. As a fan, I love the Triple Crown series. That's why I look forward to every year. And I want that chance at a Triple Crown. I think it's amazing, but I just don't know that it's really a Triple Crown series anymore. I don't think people are looking at it like that. So I don't know what you do. I'm kind of depressed about it more than anything because I don't know that there's an answer.
Okay, so I don't know. Listen, I'm here like
you had a weird look on your face this whole time I was talking. So go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I saw the comment from Martin saying first mission is scratching, so I started looking it up on Twitter, and there is some conversation about it. So I don't know that for sure. I've not seen anything. I haven't seen any definitive from an actual source. I will have to ask a few people before maybe I can get an answer while we're still on the air. But there have been a few comments on Twitter about him possibly scratching. So leave it there. Yeah, I'll find out. I'll text my source here and find out if there's any rumor. This didn't we just live through this? I mean, shit. It does make the handicapping puzzle easier, but it also goes all the price as well. I don't even know what I asked, to be honest with you. Oh yeah, I mean, listen. Well, hang on. Let's just do it. Let me ask real fast so I can get.
You asked your source. I'll keep going here. So Wicked Felina says change it. It won't be the Triple Crown. That exactly, and that's why I'm kind of like, no, don't change it. And again, if I thought we were spacing the races out 5 weeks apart, each one 5 weeks apart, would get more horses in them, I would be all for it, and I would just say, look, we there's just nothing we can do. I really, truly believe that will not even help it at this point. I think these new age, and again, I don't want to single out or make it a blanket statement where everybody thinks like this because they don't. A lot of people still, but a lot of the big time ownership groups and the bigger trainers, it's not a thing to them anymore. They don't really think of it as a Triple Crown series where we're preparing horses to run in all three of these. It's try to get to the Derby, and then it'll just fall how it falls after that. That's what it is. Again, it's not everybody. It is not everybody, but it's the majority. And it's the people that have the biggest part of the game.
Yeah. And, one thing about it for me, and this is where I'm at with it now, is I fought it, and I was, because if it's one thing when everyone wanted to change it because it was becoming too hard to hit, or to come to win or whatever. Like then I was like, who cares? Like that's what makes it the Triple Crown. Like I love, and then like Pharoah did it, thank goodness, and maybe saved the Triple Crown at that point because it may have been changed, but and then even justified. But it's like, but now it's like, it's one thing if you see 10 horses from the Derby running the Preakness or whatever, and if it's not happening, it's not happening. Like the horses aren't good enough or whatever. But when you're literally just seeing trainers skip the Derby to run the Preakness, or skip the Preakness to save them for the Belmont, or skip all of them and wait for the summer, or whatever the case may be, it's why do we have it then? Like it's just, this is shitty. It's like a shitty grade 2 race, really. I mean, it's the Preakness, so it's a grade 1, and I get it. You have the Derby winner in it. I get that, but it's not. And even the Belmont, I mean, it's a nice race. It's got the undercard saves it, to be honest. The undercard saves the Belmont Stakes. But it's just like, what are we doing? The Derby is awesome. It is what it is. It's never going to change. But I think if you're doing anything, I don't even mess with it. Like, I don't mess with like 1 week or whatever. Like, that's going to do nothing. Do it. You have to space them out like 4 weeks apart.
Yeah, and that's Jerry. I do believe if you did space them better, you would get better fields. But still, I'm not 100% sure it would fix it fully. And look, the thing with the Belmont, it's a tricky distance. A lot of horses don't want to go that far. It's always going to have years where it doesn't draw very well. But this Preakness, there's just no reason, right? I mean, it's right there. And take a horse. And again, I'm singling out horses, and I have no idea how these horses are doing, right? Like they could be not doing well, or they're really knocked out of this thing. But like Two Phils, that's a horse that should be here. Angel of Empire, that's a horse that should be here, right? And in like 10 years ago, they would have been here. And they're not doing it anymore. So you really, to me, you got two options. You try to monetize it, if it's a bonus to run in both of them, or you just kind of live with the fact that this is what the Preakness is now, and we just live with it. And I think that might be what we have to do if you try to make bonuses for horses that ran in the Derby. If they win the Preakness, they get a bonus or whatever. I think if that doesn't work, we're just going to have to realize that this is what the Preakness is now. The times have changed, and this is what it is. And we're just going to go on from there.
Yeah. I mean, I guess, do you like create some sort of like, which it'd be almost impossible to do because you have 3 different circuits that these horses are running at, and of course horse racing is not, unified whatsoever. But it'd be ideal. It's like, hey, if you win the Triple Crown, it's a $10 million, bonus. Or if you run in all 3 legs, here's a $500,000 bonus for running in all 3. Or if you hit if you finish in the money in all 3 legs, or whatever it is, but something to entice them to keep running in these races. But yeah, you're right. If you're a Derby runner, and I think that's the key, the whole year is pretty much, even if it's Derby preps, and is pertained about going to the Derby. And if you're out of the Derby, or then your chances are you're hurt or something happened. Or if you're in the Derby, it's, unless you're trained by like D Wayne, or like might be one of the only ones, honestly, that would actually run them back in 2 weeks, just because he's one of the last ones left. His mindset is, if they're available, I'm going to run them because they're 3. I have them. They're eligible. I'm going to run them. Secret Oath won the Kentucky Oaks. Sure, why not? I'll run the Preakness. Like, she's ready. Like, she can run. You know what I mean? So not many people do that. No one does that anymore. This day and age, the new trainers, they don't do that. It's like, you're lucky if you get a trainer to run 1 horse of combined out of any of the 3 legs. If they can run one time, if you get 2, that's really good. But 3, I mean, especially with no Triple Crown, I mean, it's almost impossible.
So This is the good point too. They have plenty of options now where like they can run their horses anywhere basically. How many times have you heard we're pointing for the Haskell this
Oh
time of
yeah,
year? All the time. Or we're looking at the summer races at
the
Saratoga.
Travers. Yeah.
Jim Dandy Travers all the time. All the time. And that's just it. The Haskell, the Travers, not so much the Jim Dandy, but the Haskell and Travers, the purse is really similar and it means just as much to their operation to win those races. So you're going to have to motivate them somehow to run in the Preakness. And to me, I would get on the phone with Brad Cox, Todd Pletcher, Chad Brown, Steve Askew, the big guys, and say, what would motivate you to run in our race? And that's where I would start. And whether that would go anywhere or not, whether they fix it or they make changes and it fixes it or not, I have no idea. But you at this point, you either, again, you have to try something different, whether it be drastic or not, or you just have to accept the fact that this is what this is. It's not going to get better, right? There are going to be years, hit or miss, where, like you said, where Lucas has one or Mark Cassie's one, or even Asmussen, and he's like, okay, we'll do it. And you're like, oh, the Preakness is fixed. No, long term, as this goes year after year, if they keep it the same, it's going to get worse, not better.
Yeah, there used to be a mindset in racing where it was like, if a horse won the Derby, well, we're not going to let him win the Triple Crown. We're gonna keep running against him until we can beat him. Now it's like, we'll see. And honestly, it that softens up the Triple Crown in itself. Like if we continue, that's the problem. If you continue down this path of having these kind of fields in the Preakness and whatever in the Belmont, it's like you win the Triple Crown. It's far less. I mean, it's still the Triple Crown, but it's far less of a feat when it's like, oh, you faced 7 horses in the Preakness, you faced 6 horses in the Belmont, and you faced 2 after the Derby that were also in the Derby. Whatever. Like, it's like, okay, great. But it's not. It doesn't have the same weight as it used to, even if you keep it the same and you have a Triple Crown winner.
Well, I mean, you think of. I agree 100%. I'll start with that before I get too far ahead of myself. You look at the last 2 Triple Crown winners. They had to beat horses coming back from that Derby. American Pharoah, Dortmund was in the race. Firing Line, Mr. Z. I mean, these were horses that were in the Derby and then were very competitive. And then you look at Justify. You had Good Magic that he had to beat, and Good Magic ran a hell of a race and almost got Justify beat that day. And then you had another horse out of the Derby in Bravazzo that ran against him in that race as well. So, yeah, I mean, that's a thing. This has been a new problem the last 4 or 5 years, really. Even looking back the Justify and American Pharoah years, it wasn't that long ago. You still had horses that were wheeling back and trying it. You're just not having it anymore. And it's like I said, it's going to get worse. But again, you either live with it or you try to change it the best way that you know how. But you're right. The Mage faced, especially if First Mission's out, which is another discussion we'll think about in a minute. But Mage faced a better field in the Fountain of Youth and in the Florida Derby than he's facing in the Preakness.
Yeah, which I've not heard back, and I I want to preface it by saying it's a very I don't pay any weight to that at this juncture, so I wouldn't be too fixated on the fact that he would scratch from the race. I think it's just kind of hearsay at this point. So, but yeah, I brought up the Pharoah race, but yeah, you had Frosted in the race, which was the main contender against him that year in the Derby. There may have been 1 or 2 others. I don't remember.
Well, no, he faced Dortmund and Firing Line in the Preakness.
Well, yeah, that, and then of course, like you said, in the Preakness was probably Justify's toughest race with all the horses that were coming back. Good Magic did everything he should do to beat him and didn't. But yeah, it was definitely like you don't like if you had 2 fills, Angel of Empire, Tappet Trice, if Derma was in the race, like in the Preakness, you'd say, okay, he's got to go out there and run again, man. Like he's gonna have to bring it. And now you're just like, okay.
Pretty much. Yeah. I mean, the part of the Triple Crown is you got to run 3 great races in a row to win it. And Mage doesn't really have to run a bang up race to win this Preakness, right? So, but again, it's still hard to win it. I don't want to devalue it because it's still really hard to win it. But no Derby winner has faced a Preakness field like this, or no Triple Crown winner has faced a Preakness field like this. They just haven't. And that's not a knock on Mage. I think he's a very good horse. I think if he wins the Triple Crown, he's a worthy horse. I don't want to get that shit started where people think I hate Mage because that's not true. I'm just giving you the facts of the situation. This is not a Triple Crown type of race in the Preakness. Now, if he goes out and wins by 12, why does it really matter, right? He would have beaten anybody. But again, this is not Mage hate. This is just reality of what's happened.
Yeah, this is it's such an awesome moment. If you're listening to the podcast version, we're watching the replay of Pharoah winning the Triple Crown, which of course was the first. Dude, we were there. Halterman and I were there. This was back when we were fans.
Yeah.
We weren't even 15.
No, we
had
had
the site, but it was nothing really.
Yeah.
It was very small. And dude, it was that was just right there. I mean, that was just, I have video of that somewhere. I think it's on our YouTube somewhere, but just going nuts.
Yeah.
Just truly like one of those, like I'll never forget. I've been to a lot of cool sporting events. I'll never forget that day.
That was the best. That was one of the best ever. Yep. That was, 37 years of history and a lot of people saying it wasn't going to happen, and a lot of horses who had failed, who looked like shoe-ins, like a Big Brown, like a Smarty Jones, and and even a California Chrome the year before, right? Where it's like a lot of people thought it was going to happen that day. It didn't happen. And then American Pharoah does it. And it was crazy. Yeah.
All right. So back to real quickly, the the camera, I think the camera panned to, I was hugging random girls, but I wasn't like, I don't know. It wasn't like that, Kevin. Okay.
No.
I think Halterman and I embraced each other in what could only be described as just a very intense love affair.
Yes.
Embracing of each other. But
first
no,
time at Belmont too. First time at Belmont Park. How about that?
First time at Belmont, and probably not the greatest of ideas because, of course, we were there for Pharoah, but we had such deep interest in the horse, not just from a betting standpoint, and got to Belmont and you're like, oh shit, this is gonna be brutal. Like, I see why no one can win the Triple Crown, because this track is a monster. If you've never been to Belmont, it's just insane. So to that point, let's get past, like, it is what it is. We ain't changing the spacing this year. Mage runs on Saturday. In 3 weeks after that, the barrel will be at Belmont. Do you think he can win the Belmont Stakes? Are we looking at a potential Triple Crown based off of everything? Forget the shit like, this needs changed or whatever. Is he a potential Triple Crown winner? Can he be wouldn't it be crazy if he won the Triple Crown after all this justified, didn't run it too? I can't believe that. Then he won the Triple Crown. Like, what if Mage comes along and does it too?
I think he could. I have problems with him getting 1.5 miles. I have problems with his running style in that race. But, he is naturally a little bit faster than what he's been showing. So maybe, that's the race where he could really use that to his advantage. I think he could. I am not sold on it. Like, for example, if you would have said, hey, can Justify win this Triple Crown or American Pharoah? If you go back to those podcasts, we were like, yeah, this is going to happen. Like, the Preakness is just a whatever. He'll get this done and then go do it. So I'm not like that with Mage. I do think he can do it, though. I think he's good enough. I'm just really worried about the distance with him for the Belmont, but who's going to be there? That's the other question, and before we really know who's going to be there, it's hard to answer the question. But got to win at Pimlico, and then I think he's got a shot. I don't think it's without any chance whatsoever.
Well, yeah, Kevin says American Pharaoh justify Mage, and I even tweeted out right after Mage won the Derby, Apollo justify Mage. It's just
Yeah.
it's wild, right? But it is what it is. Of course, referring to the not running at 2 and winning the Kentucky Derby. That curse of Apollo is officially not a curse anymore. Um, yeah, I mean, I will. It's hard to say because I was against. I obviously would never imagine me picking Mage to win the Preakness before the Derby, right? If that makes sense, because I didn't assume he would win the Derby. Um, but before the Preakness, I'm picking Mage. I still would have a hard time thinking I'm going to pick him to win the Belmont, if that makes sense. I'm with you. I think the running style is an issue. The 3 races in 5 weeks will be an issue at that point, and you're going to be facing some of the new shooters, quote unquote new shooters, who he's already faced. You would assume a couple from the Derby, Tapatrice, Angel of Empire, maybe horses that are going to be wanting to go that long. That it's going to be challenging for sure.
Yep.
What odds would you say are? I don't know what they are actually, but what are the odds on him to win the Triple Crown? 12 to
Somich
1.
said it was 5 or 6 to 1, I think.
To win the Triple Crown?
Mm-hmm.
Holy shit! That's if you're playing 6 to 1 on Mage on the Triple Crown, that's insane.
Well, think about it though. He's going to be even money in this race. If you think he's going to win this race, you're not getting even money on him in the Belmont. So
that's fair. That's a good way to look at it. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I get your thought of it too. It's just like I can't wrap my head around betting that horse at that price. But
and to be fair, like Kevin says, and like you mentioned, like that is a different way to look at it. If you think Mage, if you love Mage, and I know people that really, really love Mage here and think he cannot lose, and he's going to be 4 to 5 or even money, and you're basically saying you're going to get, and he's certainly not going to be 6 to 1 in the Belmont, right? Mm-hmm. So if you can get 6 to 1 on him today, basically, yeah, he has to win the next 2 races and be a Triple Crown winner, but you're getting value out of it, quote unquote value, versus trying to play a win bet. Another option is, say you're just playing a win bet on him on Saturday and you want to play a win bet on him at the Belmont. Well, you might as well just play him at 6 to 1 to win both of them.
Yeah, you might as well. I mean, I think, I mean, if he wins the Preakness pretty handily, or even by just a couple, whatever. Well, I mean, he's 7 to 5 in the Belmont, isn't he?
Oh yeah. Well, we just saw Pharoah. What was he there? 3 to 5, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, he's no Pharoah, but yeah, he'd be every bit of even money, I would think.
I would think so too. Yeah. And you're going to get the fan money come in that day on him for sure. So, yeah, it's when you look at it that way, it's not that bad a price. Now, again, do I think Mage is ultimately? I couldn't do it. Ultimately, I couldn't do it. I couldn't. I just listen. It's tough for a reason, and it hasn't been done very often for a reason. And we can talk about this field not being very good, but it's still really hard to win 3 in 5 weeks.
Listen, yep, I agree. The bottom line is for me, for this race, if you would have told me which race is Mage best fit for, I think it's probably the Preakness. And he's won the Derby. I think he can get there in the Preakness. Halterman's picking Mage to win the Preakness as well. We'll see what he does. If he wins, what that means, it'd be great for the sport. Like, that's the other thing. Just in general, anytime there's a Triple Crown on the line, it's great for the sport. Last year was a disaster when the Derby winner didn't even run the Preakness. So the fact if we could get a Derby Preakness, winner into the Belmont with a chance, win or lose, that's always fun. It's always great for the sport to have that. And gosh, we probably need it. So
yeah,
root for Mage to win the Preakness, both for our bets and for racing. That's the thing. Like, you get, if he wins, how wild would it be? 15 to, I think what did he go off at? 15 to 1 in the Derby, 15 to 1, even money. Like, that's probably what he'll be.
Yeah. I mean,
now if he loses the Preakness, where do you think we'll see him next? Like, probably the summer at
Haskell
at Saratoga, or
Haskell or Jim Dandy, I would think.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I don't think they think he's like the perfect horse for the Belmont. So, yeah, I'd say Haskell, Jim Dandy, and point towards the summer. And if he loses the Preakness, it's the Belmont becomes strange. I don't know. Right? Like I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know who's going to be in the Belmont. Tapatrice and somebody, right?
Yeah. Well, last year it was kind of similar where you had two different winners and as a joke and had Rich Strike, I guess, coming back, but
Yeah.
yeah, it was it definitely loses its luster if you don't have any runner. Even if like I honestly think the only horse. Yeah, I kind of think the only horse that could win the race that would be in the Belmont is Mage. Like, I don't think First Mission, if he wins, is going
No,
to the Belmont.
because here's the deal: these trainers anymore, they're not running horses back on 3 weeks rest either.
Not
Right?
especially not for the mile and a quarter or mile and a half race.
No, so it's Mage. That's it. I shouldn't say all of them because, like a Kenny McPeak would try it, or there's a few, but most of them it's a month. So
Yeah.
yeah, Asmussen might. Asmussen might.
Yeah,
still-
I mean, I honestly, well, that may not be right. I was gonna say I almost would think if he didn't win, he would have a better chance of running into the Belmont than if he won. But he might have the same chance either way. Like if he's good, I think he, and I guess it would also depend if Disarm would end up going to the Belmont as well after not going to this one. So we would see. But let's see. Yeah, Arcangelo, Hit Show, Forte, Tapatrice, Angel of Empire.
They've said Forte's not running now.
Yeah, no.
They could go back on that, but they've said Forte's not going. The two from the Peter Pan, Bishop's Bay, they said he's not going again.
Yeah, Bishop's Bay is not going. I know that for a fact.
Yeah.
Well, I've heard that from the actual trainer saying they're not going, but I think you never know. I think he's more of a. I wouldn't go further than mile and eighth with him. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Cox would run him back in the summer if he win. I think you do the Preakness and you go, okay. There's no point of winning the Belmont. Like, I might as well save him for, like, to me, if he wins a Preakness, it's like, okay, we're gonna go win the Travers with him now, and you work backwards from that.
I hope they run him in the Belmont. I don't think they will, but hell, he might scratch out of the Preakness. Who knows?
Well, and I don't. Again, I think that's very rumor. So just don't get too excited on that. But ooh,
what?
Well, okay, I don't know. My source heard the same rumors, so we'll see. We will see. Just stay tuned, guys. Stay tuned. If First Mission. If we learned anything from the Derby, and we already knew this. That's why whenever we heard the rumors, we were like, just hang on, guys. Because when you start to hear rumors for one of these big races, it tends to have some validity to it.
So him scratching is just bad, because obviously if you want to play him in something, that's bad. But him scratching hurts everybody's price. If you like Mage and you think even money on Mage, that's good enough, forget it. It's gone. If you like National Treasure and like 3-1, 4-1, that would be okay. Forget it. It's gone. Even Red Route 1, Blazing, all of them.
Yeah, that you can't, and you certainly can't play him to win. Mage, that is. He's already going to be too low, and to play him at this price. So it's like it's an unbettable race unless you like Perform or you like. The problem is, even if you like Perform, the value of him will not be there.
It's a killer. It's a killer if he's out.
Because First Mission's keeping the race honest from a betting perspective.
Yeah, because he is going to eat up money, whether he's going to win or not. That's whatever your opinion, whatever you want to do betting wise. But the fact of it is, he's going to eat up a lot of money, right? Even money that you could, that's going against Mage that makes Mage somewhat playable.
Yeah.
So, and no, Essential Quality did not run in the Preakness. He ran in the Belmont.
No.
Kentucky Derby Belmont, and ran one of the better Belmonts I've ever seen, for the record. That was fantastic.
I thought, and to further that comment, Hot Rod Charlie ran one of the better races in Belmont that I've seen and lost. It was such a great running.
That was a great race.
It was a hell of a race.
That race, I remember walking out of there that day being really shocked that we saw something that good.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It was. Yeah, I mean, I thought Essential Quality. He flexed that day. That was like, oh damn,
Big.
that's the that dude is legit.
That was a big effort.
Okay,
Big
so I guess like before we get off here, now that again, this is all hearsay. This is like I have nothing definitive here. So just again, we'll do the same thing we did with Forte. Plan for him to run until he's not. And so, what do you if there is no first mission in the race? Is it just you just skip? You basically just put your effort in the in the undercard and not the Preakness.
I will honestly, I'll probably just do like a straight Mage Red Route 1 and just pray that Red Route 1 gets up because to say first mission's out, I mean, a Mage National Treasure Exacta is not enticing. So to me, you're going to still try to beat him, even though your prices on all those other horses are going to get hurt. You still could try. That's fine. Yeah. Or you'd put him on top and you try to get some kind of price underneath.
I mean, the only thing you can do, in my opinion, is you play Mage on top of, Exacta or something. But the problem is you just got to pound it. I mean, you got to play it hard. And I kind of mentioned this 2 weeks ago in the Derby. I had such a strong opinion, and I honestly, like, you never know. I feel like I would have been right because I don't know if Mage was going to get beat, but I do think Mage proved that Forte would have ran well. But again, you never know. I had Forte keyed in second because I just thought he's going to run well. Someone's going to beat him. And he felt like a good key horse. Well, you lose first mission. Yeah, sure. You have Mage on the front end, but past I don't feel good about any other key horses in second or third. Like, sure, National Treasure and Red Route 1 makes sense, but it's just like everyone's going to play that. It's just, do I want to try to create value, or do I want to try to find value by playing horses I don't like, or do I just want to skip the race? So.
Yep.
I don't know. It's I hope I'm wrong. But now it's like in your head, right, too. So listen, I will, if there is updates, we will definitely let you guys know. Hey, another reason I was tweeting out about this. If you make sure you go to Twitter, if you subscribe to our Twitter tweets, I don't know what it's even called, but I was tweeting about with Forte on there. So it's another reason to go to Twitter. I don't post it on Twitter because I don't want, the idiots out there to kill us for having rumors. But so the people that subscribe, you can get the inside information there, the inside scoop. So I feel like Adam Schefter yet again. I'll be on my phone all night tonight, talking to the hot walkers and talking to the exercise rider, and I was doing all that for Forte. So I'll go. We'll find out. I'll definitely know more in the morning. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
By the morning. So,
yeah.
Anyways, that's all the time we have, guys. Check us out at racingnews.com for our free picks and our premium selections on our products page. Click the Get Racing News premium button at the menu at racingnews.com to learn more. Remember, go get your hands on that Preakness betting Bible. You can get the exact bets that myself and Halterman are playing all day on Saturday at Pimlico for Preakness, the whole card on Preakness Day. How we're playing every single race. We have a budget. You can see exactly what we think of every race by race, pace analysis. Pick 5, pick 4, those kind of wagers all there included as well. You'll get top 4 consensus picks from the entire team, not just Halterman and I, but the entire team, racingdudes.com, Magic and Somich and Vinny and Dr. Miranda and Papa Dude, the whole team on there. You make sure you get your hands on the Preakness Betting Bible. And again, make sure you stay tuned. We update that thing. So we will send updates out if needed.
I hope we don't need to, but
I hope you weren't assuming that your work was done. It's not. Well, it may not be. We'll find out more. All right, guys. Make sure you go check out the Magic Mike show if you want more analysis. Of course, they covered the Preakness as well. They did the late pick 5 at Pimlico on Saturday. Of course, that includes a bunch of stakes races. So you want to get your hands on that as soon as you're done watching this. Final thoughts, Halterman. Go make sure you go to Twitter at racing_dudes and subscribe to our tweets. And I'll be posting about anything I find out in the coming hours. All right, Halterman, final thoughts.
Yeah, let's hope he doesn't scratch, and let's hope we have a good Preakness. Everything's going smooth, and I didn't see any hiccups, and now this. So hopefully everything goes smoothly. I think it's going to be a fun weekend. There's a lot of good racing. There's 28 races at Pimlico over the next 2 days. So let's hope for the best, and let's have fun, okay?
Okay, one thought I have here. I just thought of it, but if there's any chance this is true, go try to lock in the 6-1 right now. Seriously, that's a great bet. Do it now because if you think about it, if he scratches, he's basically a lock to win this race. You're getting 6-1 on him to win the Belmont. Just saying, go do it. Yeah, that's I don't know. Well, I would say this. When we first found out, you guys were following us, with the Forte stuff. When I was hearing the stuff, I was like 70% positive he was going to scratch, and then it got increased as it went on. With this one, I'd say at this juncture, just as comparison, I would say I'm like 25% sure that first mission's going, maybe 30. I'm not there yet. So just I think it's weird.
Hold on. I've got a source. I've got a source that'll tell me. Hold on.
Are you talking to the hot walker?
Hold on.
I'll keep talking. I'll keep
talking for a second.
I'll keep rambling on. But no. There you go. Practical Mage scratch was rough, Shoddy.
Well, that one we never saw coming.
No. That one was wild because it was just like they had like a virus or something going on with scratches. Like one scratch, the next thing you know, a bunch of them scratch, and they, one after another. So, I mean, I don't think with the race like the Derby, you expect to have some sort of some scratches going on, but this kind of race, especially if it's a big if first mission does, it's like with a horse like that's been planning to run in the race, that's been working towards the race, didn't just run in the Derby. That one's tough to, I guess you could say like maybe he had issues, because he was a horse that doesn't have a lot of racing under his belt and got kind of late to the game. Maybe that's part of the reason, but I don't know. I still am not gonna get too overworked about it yet.
Let's see. Yeah, no, me neither.
Yeah, the Forte story is still unfolding, Joseph. It's like that one, like, okay. Like while he's doing his thing over there, it gives me opportunity to soapbox this for a second. Like the Forte thing is such fucking bullshit. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing in the sport that we have a horse that was the Derby favorite who could have won the Derby, who tested positive in September after winning the Hopeful, went on to win the Breeders' Cup, went on to win the 2-year-old champion, and we just now found out about it? It's just insanity to me. Oh, and by the way, we slapped it with a solid fine and suspended it for 10 days. It's like, what are we doing? It's just wild to me that like we just are supposed to, as bettors, are supposed to just be like, cool, I accept that and move on.
And not only that, there was no transparency about what was going on with Forte for that Derby. Like what we were being told, and from people who know and people that were there with the horse, and what they were telling the general public. Oh my God, and my dad kept saying, if he's hurt, there's no way they can run him. I kept saying, Dad, you're not even listening again to what I'm saying. He is hurt. You know it. Stop reading on Twitter what people are saying. Like, we know he's hurt. You're not listening to what we're telling you. But again, though, that shows you the general public, they're just going to go what they hear from the solid news sources, which is what they should. But there was no honesty involved with any of what happened there either.
I mean, and that, to be fair, like I said earlier, whatever, 70%, I was 100% sure he was scratching from my sources. Like, it was happening.
Oh, yeah.
But then I would look on DRF, or I would look on Twitter, or not to throw out DRF, but just any of the main sources out there. And you'd be like, well, shit. Or even the connections. You talk to Pletcher, and you did everything right. Like, dude, I saw one. I think I texted you that day, and I was like, it was like, I think it was Friday. And I was like, the morning of Friday. And it's like, from Pletcher. Yeah, he did everything exactly like we wanted. Like, he's looking good. It's like, what? I mean, just like you said, zero transparency there. Nothing. Like, you wouldn't even, if you just watched, you wouldn't even know there was an issue with his foot. If you didn't know if you weren't getting information from people.
And the craziest thing about it is, what is the harm of being honest about it?
Yeah.
In sports, we hide injuries.
We're honest in every other sport.
Well,
if someone
but even in other sports, we might hide an injury here or there because we're afraid the other team might try to exploit the injury.
Yeah.
That's not what is it? Horse racing? What difference does it make? You come out and you say, look, he's got a little issue. We're trying to work it out. It's nothing serious. We may have scratching. We may not. We're not sure yet. And then none of this shit has to take place. So I don't understand it. And again, I've always said it, or I've been saying it the last few weeks. In our bubble, our horse racing bubble, here's the bubble, and here's all of us crazies in this bubble. We're so used to this stupidity that it's just like, yeah, that's racing. But when you try to reach out of the bubble and say, hey, come here, try this, and you bring them in and you tell them this, they go, what the fuck? I don't want, this is crazy.
Yeah.
You know?
And mind you as well, like, there's betting being placed on him in the Preakness future thing. So we're allowing this to just be bet.
Yeah.
Even after the fact that, even after the Derby, when we find out, he can't run in the Preakness based off of these rules because he has to have a workout within 14 days, we still are taking bets on him, it's crazy. Like, it's just, there's no, like, if you ever think horse racing has a we'll be dead, long dead. Either horse racing will be gone, or the horse racing will be exactly the way it is when we're dead. They're making zero improvements in terms of that.
No,
it's great. It's is your source? Have you heard anything from your source?
They're in the dark like we are.
Okay,
so that's what I got. I did get a reply. I have nothing. I got nothing for you at this moment.
You disappointed me.
Like you said, on the Forte thing, I had multiple people saying it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So, but this one, I don't have any of that yet. So,
yeah, look at this. Yeah, that's he was the one trying to run everyone I talked to was like, if this was just a regular weekend or not this ownership, the horse would have scratched yesterday, He
wouldn't have even entered into the race.
Yeah.
That's the facts.
But they wanted to run him. I think they wanted to run him up, and if it was up to them, he would have ran. So
exactly. He is the reason it got drug out. But anyway, let's get off of here before we get canceled or something. We can't get we own it, so nobody can cancel us because we're not going anywhere. All right,
I'm not canceling you, so don't worry about it.
We can say whatever we want, and it's a crooked bunch of shit. There you go. End it.
Boom. Lots of smoke. We'll see what happens with First Mission tomorrow. Stay tuned. I'm Jared Welch. He's Aaron Halterman. This has been a very, very in-depth Blinkers Off, and remember, Stay tuned for for tomorrow. We'll be live at 11 o'clock Central talking about, of course, everything in the world of sports. We'll also be live for the Black Eyed Susan later in the day. We'll be live again on Saturday. I'm Jared Balch. He's Aaron Halterman. Good luck in the Preakness.